Okay, we are moments away. Moments away. This. Okay. Yes, yes, and yes. All right, here we go, everybody. Yes. Hi there, Brenda. Hi there, Kathy. Folks, I believe audio and video should be nice and clear. Normally we have one of our moderators on. Yes. Good afternoon, one and all. I think we should be good. Yes. Hi, everyone. Maybe someone could tell me that it sounds okay, or I could actually obviously check myself. Yes, I appreciate everyone saying hello. I'd love someone to say audio sounds great. That would be terrific. Otherwise, I will check it. Audio good. All right, Kathy jumps in. Yes. Real noon news. There we go. Yes. Yes. Thank you. There's Jane, folks. Hope you're enjoying it. Share, everybody. And we are live on this. Okay, we are standing by to go live. Just get the okay from JR, and we're going to be good to go on what is just a fantastic Tuesday. So much in the news we're going to touch on. At 12:06 on this Tuesday, good afternoon. You're listening to the Real Noon News. It is the John DePetro Show. It's AM 13. We are on so many platforms now. AM 1380, 99.9 FM. Yes, you can listen online at our website, which is, well, we're working on the stream, actually. The stream has to be corrected. We had a minor glitch with that. That's on our end. I thought it was straightened out. We're going to get it straightened out. I apologize. I know a number of people. Boy, if I ever wondered if people listen online, we got our answer pretty quick. With a lot of people listen online. I apologize. We should have that straightened out sooner rather than later. And I do apologize. So, but the following platforms now, you can catch the Real News at noon, and it will be obviously on AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. Now you can always listen. We do our live stream on our Facebook page, which is John DePetro Show. And then now also we are on X, as I can see the crowd filing on X, formerly known as Twitter, and also on YouTube. So YouTube, John DePetro Show page, X, again, you can find the account. And then also you can also go to, whether it be, like I said, those different platforms. Some people just listen to AM 1380 or 99.9 FM, and then we will straighten out the ability to listen online, which is on the website, DePetro.com, and I think we will get that straightened out. So there's a lot of news. I will touch on the Karen Read case. We will touch on also the largest story that's going on here with President Biden and the Democrat Party in the race regarding the presidential election. I'm going to touch on all that, but folks, I want to remind you, PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown, especially right now, they have such a beautiful selection of fresh vegetables. Stop in and see them. Steve and Debbie and Junior and Byron, it's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, listen, if you're going maybe to a 4th of July party, maybe you could, bring a nice gift from there. They have unique original gifts. They also have hanging pots, hanging pansy, vegetable plants, tropical mandevillas. But the biggest thing they have is homegrown, garden fresh vegetables. And it's all right there at PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown, right off of Route 4. You can look for them on Facebook. I think they happen to run. I think it's just a fantastic Facebook page just because they update it so much and there's so many different things that they offer. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, I actually, as we're live, I do want to adjust the seating a little bit. I'm a little low, so to speak. So I think this will help. Yeah, that's a little bit better. And even I can even make it a little more comfortable since it is a little warm. But with all the inclement weather that we suffered through, we'll take it. So, okay, much better. Now, folks, remember, you can always visit the website, depetro.com. We have so many new followers and people that want to learn about the program, about our coverage. Again, check it out at the website, depetro.com, which is brought to you by the Cowesett Inn. There's a link to the Cowesett Inn right there on the website, which is depetro.com. Now, they have great baskets for the 4th of July. You can check it all out at the Cowesett Inn. And that's another example. And the price point on it is really terrific and affordable. The Cowesett Inn, they have the market at Cowesett. It's a great place for lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. Also, remember, it's a perfect spot if you're going to have a collation lunch, just because the amount of people that they can accommodate. The Cowesett Inn, 226 Cowesett Avenue in West Warwick. So, all right, now where to begin? Well, I'll just touch on this with the Karen Read trial. I'm going to start off with it just because obviously so many people are vested in it. Yesterday was a big day. There's various, I'm not going to relitigate the case because there are developments now with the case. And tomorrow we'll speak with our legal expert, which is Attorney Tim Dodd. But let me just say this about the Karen Read trial that ended in a mistrial. I think you have to, a lot of people right now that I notice they're still stuck and they're not sure where to go forward on it. And I can understand that, right? I can understand that. And I mean by many of the people that consider themselves, as they call them, the Free Karen Read movement. But what you have to look at, it is true that yesterday, after the mistrial, Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor was relieved of his duties. Now, that's real. That is significant. That is a very significant development, and it's a significant development in the form that you have to understand this case will be retried. I know some people have been saying they would never retry it. Well, they announced yesterday they're going to retry her, so that is going to happen. I don't think Alan Jackson is going to be part of it. The guy's in LA. It's a very expensive case, but here's the part that I think is really interesting, and that is, as someone that, as you know, followed the trial, covered the trial, inside the courtroom, really got a chance, up close. I'm so glad I made, I mean, it wasn't easy going back and forth, and just those are long days. Give a lot of credit to so many people, but, and you learn so much from it. But what a lot of people may not realize is the second trial is not going to be a replay of the first. And what I mean by that, and I think this is really important, we'll talk about it tomorrow with our legal expert, Attorney Tim Dodd, but you have to understand that the defense, Karen Read, I don't know. Is there a plea? We don't know. I mean, is there a plea agreement? They plan to try her again. So, but what you got to realize is the Michael Proctor development, that's a big development. And as someone that sat there and watched it, if you were to replay, both sides would do things differently. The prosecution, many times in a retrial, the advantage goes to the prosecution because they can sharpen their case and they saw what worked, what didn't work. Witnesses are better. It's a better fine-tuned case, so to speak, almost like it was edited somewhat. And so they get a better sense of the direction that they want to go. But something that can't be ignored is the Proctor thing. Now, in hindsight, for the amount of people that were voting guilty, and from what we understand with the jury, it was pretty substantial. That means that they didn't buy into the whole, all these people were involved in a conspiracy cover up, police, evidence planted, various things like that. So, my point is, and I think this is important, the defense, they can't just say, okay, well, we're just going to do the same case all over again, because I don't think the Commonwealth is going to do the same case all over again. What the second trial could be more of a focus on is the accident reconstruction and Trooper Proctor. And if you're the defense, thin it out and maybe focus on that more and less on the witnesses. So that could be an angle where they feel you really want to go after him. And now he's still with the state police, but he's been relieved of his duties. And he was the lead detective on the Brian Walsh case, who killed his wife, Anna Walsh, in Cohasset. So my point is, I don't think that's something that can be ignored. I mean, we still have a long way to go, but I would think maybe they take a look at this and say, maybe we don't need to do the whole cover up. He was in the house, they beat him, threw him on the front lawn, because as someone that covered it, they never got him inside the house. And the Google search proved to be false. So maybe that shouldn't be the focus. And again, we'll find out, but maybe that's not the focus, because if anything, the prosecution proved the Google search was false, and they proved that they never got him in the house. So the idea that all of these people conspired together, murder, cover up, that the jury wasn't buying that. So I think the defense may say, maybe we're just going to zero in on Proctor, and maybe we're going to zero in on the reconstruction of the accident. That may be a better path for them to go down. Now, I want to stay on schedule here. We do have a lot of news, and I also want to touch on, we are going to be doing road patrol later. Folks, I want to remind you, though, someone had asked me, Jim asked me, that's not a prop, that's a real bee. Jim asked me about, he wants to get his driveway paved. Who did I recommend? Jim, I'm glad you asked. Contact J. Perry Paving today at 401-732-1730. Letter J. Perry Paving. I share their Facebook page. Letter J. Perry Paving. 401-732-1730. I actually need a fan out here, because then it would keep like any flies or bugs away, which are always helpful at a cookout. By the way, if you're ever this weekend entertaining and you have people outside, if you just put a couple of fans outside, the motion of the fans keep the flies and the bees away. So it's a nice little trick I want to pass along. Letter J. Perry Paving, 401-732-1730. Remember, free estimate. Give them a call. They do fantastic work. And what a difference it makes with your property. Something as simple as getting your driveway paved or your parking lot. Letter J. Perry Paving, 401-732-1730. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service. Call them for a free estimate today. Now, I've seen them in motion, and they're a pro's pro. They do solid work, and it makes such a difference. I like when they'll post the before and after. Letter J. Perry Paving, and look for them on Facebook. So let's talk about what's happening with the White House. Now, I recognize there are some people that only want to talk about the Karen Read trial, and that's fine. That's not the way that I normally conduct the Real News at Noon. We like to touch on more of the top stories, but a couple different things. Rhode Island Senator, who's up for re-election, by the way, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, said it was terrifying seeing the Biden debate performance. But there's something larger at play here, and it's starting to take hold. Now, you're going to hear Donna Perry next hour on the radio show. And remember, you can hear the radio show weekdays. We start at 11. We go until 2. This is, we're live 12 to 1 for the Real News at Noon. But what you're starting to hear, and I know a lot of people go with the narrative of the fake news and blah 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 and CNN and everything else, but Jake Tapper, he was the new level that is kind of evolving here is people are pushing back, not only people in the Democrat Party, but most importantly, the media is pushing back that President Biden had a bad night. And you're starting to hear, for instance, Jake Tapper on CNN, when he was saying to Connecticut Senator Chris Coons, why doesn't he come out and hold a 2-hour press conference and take every question? What is starting to unravel here with the Biden White House is it's something that I'm not obviously alone. Other people have talked about this, but it's really starting to take hold. And that is the whole idea that Jill Biden, there's the central figure. And by the way, she's not a doctor. She's not a doctor. She has a doctorate. She's always wants to be introduced as Dr. Jill Biden. And when she appears on a program, it's Dr. Jill Biden. That's only appropriate on a college campus because she has a PhD. She's not a medical doctor. So it's really, it would only be in a college setting that she has her PhD. But what you're really seeing here is an individual who is perfectly comfortable with the scenario where she is the gatekeeper and she holds all the power. So I think you'd have to go back to the second term of the Reagan White House when Nancy Reagan was accused of this. We've kind of been down this road a little bit. It's hard to believe. I know people say, think about it. There was a period of time where people didn't know that Roosevelt was in a wheelchair. There's a lot of people that they talked about when they met President Roosevelt. The first thing that surprised them was that the guy was in a wheelchair because no one knew it. But what you've seen here is you have both the media and Democrats, by the way, that want reassurance that wasn't just a bad night, that he has different things going on. Anyone that watched that, if you're honest, and you've either had a parent or grandparent or an older relative or just someone that you were close to, and you see them, I mean, it can be part of aging. People age differently. But the real dynamic here that I think is taking hold, and this is what's, to me, this has nothing to do with President Trump. And I know some people feel all media is biased and everything, but I'll tell you what's an interesting story right now. If you are New York Times, Washington Post, mainstream media, so to speak, but what they really want to dig into is how much has the White House been holding back? How much have they been hiding? How much have they been hiding him to give the impression that he is actually okay? He can't sit down for long interviews. We've talked about that. Their plan was just keep saying how much they don't like President Trump. And you saw it. All these interviews that start with the lies and blah, blah, blah. What we're finding is the real lies have been coming from the First Lady and the Biden White House, that he is not up for the job. I mean, when you step back, when you step away from the Crooked Joe and Hunter and all, I don't think it's been framed properly or effectively as it could be from the Trump camp. But I think the media is about to frame this. And that is the fact that this is not someone that had a bad night. When you saw him, the president, on Thursday night, is there any rational person that thinks the next day he was then with it in a meeting? He's not. Can you imagine if at 9 o'clock at night they had to wake him up and tell him that China just attacked Taiwan or that Putin just moved troops into Poland? What should we do? Is there anyone that was watching last Thursday night that thinks that individual would have a reasonable idea or a thought as to what should be done in a crisis emergency situation like that? Is there anyone that realistically thinks, based on what you saw last Thursday night, that that person that was on the stage would be able to say, okay, here's what we're going to do? I don't, no one that's being honest would think that this president would be capable of making the proper decisions that would be needed in an emergency situation like this. Folks, or like that is what I should say. This portion of our program of the Real News at Noon, and it's brought to you by, you want to enjoy upscale, authentic Mexican cuisine, Don Jose's Tequila, located 351 Atwells Avenue in Providence. You're going to love it, and I'll tell you why. Now, tonight, Taco Tuesday, they have the back patio, which is perfect this time of year, and they have umbrellas so you're not too hot, but you're outside and you get to enjoy. It's so festive eating there. Remember, Saturday night's dining out front, al fresco. Monday through Thursday, try this $26.99 3-course special, and it's fantastic, and you leave full. They have the margarita flights that are just $29.99, and brunch on Sunday, 10:30 to 3. Don Jose's Tequila. Stop in and see them. Now, when I'm out, 351 Atwells Avenue in Providence, it's festive, it's authentic, upscale Mexican cuisine. You're going to love it, and it's great for a group. Don Jose's Tequila. Well, folks, good afternoon. You're listening to the Real Noon News. It is the John DePetro Show. Yes, we'll be doing Road Patrol later, live. Now, yesterday was unfortunate. There was a shooting in Woonsocket, and because we were coming back from the Karen Read trial and everything went on with that, we were kind of out of position, but the trial is over. The trial will not be litigated. And one thing I again want to say, a problem for the Karen Read defenders and the Free Karen Read crowd, by the way. And by the way, it's a delightful Tuesday here in the Northeast. I know that people, because of our different platforms, can watch all over. There was heavy rain that came in yesterday, but a couple things, and I'm going to weave in and out of both the news of the day and then also both the Biden thing. And actually, before I talk about the Karen Read case, I do want to mention that it's very telling that Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse told Ted Nesi that he was basically horrified what he saw. Now, I mean, there's no way to confuse that. That is someone coming right out. And what I think is really interesting is Sheldon Whitehouse, Senator Whitehouse, who is up for re-election this fall. We're going to find out whether he's going to face Representative Patricia Morgan or Ray McKay. But Whitehouse, who is a darling to the left, who's always on MSNBC, what he said is he jumped off talking points, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. He said that the White House needs to assure people that this was just like a one-time thing. I think Jake Tapper of CNN throwing down the gauntlet, saying, well, why doesn't he do a 2-hour press conference and answer all the questions? The real answer is he can't do a 2-hour press. He can't do a 1-hour press conference. I want to remind people, they picked this format. I recognize a lot of people say he has dementia and Alzheimer's, but anyone that's known someone that had that, he now is really showing mental decline. And so for Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, he's got to be looking at polls. I took that to be that Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island he's basically saying, like, I'm not going to go down in flames with this guy. I'm not going to carry on this charade that he's fine. I'm not going to go along and say that the debate was fine. That was a train wreck. The problem for the Biden White House is not that Obama had a bad first debate. It's not that he was like a little rusty. Anyone that saw that, and what was so embarrassing, as you know, afterwards, was him walking out and Jill Biden treating him like, I don't know what. And he answered all the questions. I mean, they can't prep him for his gaze. They can't prep him for having his mouth agape. They can't prep him for just his facial tics or the way this is not telling a story and you lose your train of thought, or someone that walks down to the basement of their home and says, what did I come down here for? That's not what that was. That was, this is a real problem. So, and it's not going to go away. This is not a matter of he needs to bounce back. This is not bouncing back. How about that's why halfway through the White House tried to say, oh well, he had a cold. So that's just more bad spin coming out. No, make no mistake about it. The warning signs are there, but I want to repeat, the problem here is Jill Biden. This is someone who she likes the power. She likes being the gatekeeper. Her and the president, he's along for the ride. They dismiss everyone. I mean, it's pretty frightening how tone deaf when you think that Hunter made the decision that the father should stay in the race. That's good to know. So Hunter made the decision that they should stay in the race. All right, I want to touch on that, but my point is the fact when a Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, who's up for re-election, is not drinking the Kool-Aid, you have a real problem. You have a real problem when something like that, when someone like that is jumping off the train. And what the real problem here, notice, the more the media, the best thing that President Trump could do right now is just be silent and let all of the focus be on Biden. Because right now, a problem for Team Biden and the Democrat Party, as we're in July now, their convention is next month. The problem they face is the media finally is questioning, excuse me, the media is finally not questioning how bad is Trump, right? The media is not saying, democracy's on the ballot. What the media is questioning is not the election of whether it should be Trump or Biden. What the focus now is what is his mental acuity day to day. And that's a very damaging, dangerous topic for the, that's what the Biden White House doesn't want, because that's not going to go away. There have been people online that continually post all the gaffes. And for how long now? We've talked about that. They just kind of ignore it and play along. What happened Thursday, the emperor has no clothes and it can't be ignored. And what you need to understand is, by all accounts, when you have Jake Tapper of CNN, think about that, leading the when you have the editorial board of the New York Times saying you should step aside, you can't say they're all just going to cover for him. They're putting the White House on notice that they're not going to cover for him, that the gig is up, and the real damaging thing for the Biden White House, for them to focus on, is going to be not that they're going to focus on President Trump, not that they're going to focus on January 6th. What's dangerous for the Biden White House is they start to focus on how is he capable of doing his job day to day. You know what they start to do now? They start to go to people, and they don't have to go on the record, but people that have had meetings with him, and people, you're going to start to see stories pop up now from the New York Times, the Washington Post, and others, Axios, and they're going to say someone speaking background talked about, there was a situation in a meeting and he couldn't keep his train of thought and he couldn't listen. That is going to start to be like a drip, drip, drip. Folks, this portion of our program on this beautiful Tuesday, July 2nd, and it's brought to you by Royal Exteriors. Call them today, 401-533-9989. If you're listening or watching right now and you're thinking of getting a new roof, call Royal Exteriors today, 401-533-9989. Andrew does a fantastic job. Call for a free estimate. You deal directly with the owner. Royal Exteriors. Now, online at royalexteriorsri.com. And remember, with Royal Exteriors, the customer is always king or queen. So whether it's your home or business, if you're thinking of getting new roof or siding, home exterior, Royal Exteriors, 401-533-9989, where the customer is always king or queen. Well, folks, good afternoon. You're listening to the John DePetro Show. This is the Real Noon News. This is, this is golden for President Trump. First of all, the Supreme Court rules in his favor. But the larger issue to me is it's not even about the Supreme Court. This is about the media now. And I know many people that are listening or watching, people out there that think they're all in the tank for Biden and they're all in that. I'll tell you this. One thing I know, the press, they don't like to be lied to. They don't like to be misled. And there is right now, there is blood in the water of who is going to come up. You watch, you're going to start to see some stories pop up in the Washington Post, Axios, New York Times, and they're going to be people that you're going to really learn about the day-to-day schedule of the president. We're going to learn about problems that they've had. We're going to learn about the overseas trip. They can only hide him so much. We're also going to start, you watch, we're going to start to learn about what it was like Air Force One flying to Atlanta for the debate. I mean, he didn't just walk out on the stage with a cold. Someone will start to talk. Someone within the Biden camp that maybe realizes that the whole train is coming to an end and they want to start to slowly get off, and they're going to need some allies in the media to help them get their next job, and or they're already reaching out to whoever they perceive will be the next camp. The stories are going to start to be very, very damaging. If President Trump just basically stays quiet, and he did show restraint in that debate last Thursday. Look at how much things have changed. The debate wasn't even a week ago. If President Trump, remember, Sun Tzu, the Art of War, when your enemy is making a mistake, don't interrupt him. All he has to do is just raise money, stay out of the headlines, and let all of the focus be on Biden. You don't need to spike them all in the end zone. What happened Thursday, they're not looking at Biden policies. They're looking at Biden. They're looking at what is the dynamic? Who does have access to him? Right? What is the real medical diagnosis for him? It's very dangerous territory for Team Biden. And that's why don't take for granted that now I would not vote for Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, but don't take for granted that he's jumping off. He's seeing polling numbers that he doesn't want to get roped in on. He's seeing polling numbers for President Trump in Rhode Island. Whether it's right now, there is going to be a Republican primary, unfortunately. But whether it's Patricia Morgan or Ray McKay, this Senate race in Rhode Island could be much closer than people realize. Folks, now, as I have mentioned, and I am going to talk about the Karen Read trial, I was constantly seeing people that had problems, not me, with all the walking that was involved. They had to park their car, they had to walk over to the courthouse, they had to walk over to the buffer zone, they had to walk to get lunch, they had to walk to get coffee. All these people kept stopping to rest their feet. And I would tell them, contact Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialists. They're right in the Smithfield Medical Center, right there, Route 5 in Smithfield. Beautiful building, Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist. 3 doctors, by the way. You know, I did hear from someone that said, I don't know what my problem is. I went and it was one of those feet stores. I don't know where it was located. And it was a young clerk and he was like 22 and he sold me some very expensive inserts. And now my feet are like, what are we talking about? With Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialists, you're dealing with 3 doctors, board certified podiatrists. Call and set up an appointment, 949-3220, 949-3220, Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialists, sometimes same day appointment. All these people, it's not normal to have foot pain. These people don't realize it's not normal that you can only walk 100 feet and then you have to stop and rest, or less than 100 yards. They may have some other problems, but Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialists, you're listening right now on this Tuesday. It's not God's will that you have foot pain or ankle pain. So they can help you whether it's a skin condition or bunions, hammer toe, plantar fasciitis that I had a problem with, or a fracture or a sprain. Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialists, you lose so much of your quality of life if you have trouble just getting around. Contact them today, schedule your appointment. You can find them online, greenvillefootlandankle.com, greenvillefootlandankle.com, or call today, 401-949-3220. Police ask me, how do you get around so much? You're so mobile. And every time I turn around, you're either running here, running there. I tell them, you have to take care of your feet and ankle. I mean, obviously, all parts of your body are important, but if you can't walk without pain, you can't go anywhere, right? Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialists. Again, if you're listening right now, either you or a family member, you're having some problems, it's not God's will, 949-3220, Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialists. So, folks, I do want to touch on the Karen Read case, which was very extraordinary. And yesterday, of course, was the big mistrial. So now there's going to continue to be a lot of rumors about this. But what you have to realize is something else also really interesting happened the last couple of days with the trial. And that is people that support the O'Keefe family started to not only speak out, but started to get booked for interviews. Now, I have been speaking out, and I don't want to relitigate the case. I looked at the case last August, September. Everyone makes their own choices. I don't try to convert anybody. People ask my opinion about it. I was even quoted. There was a nice story yesterday in the Boston Herald. I said she's 100% guilty. I never bought the conspiracy. I'm not going to relitigate the case. I think some people are going to be surprised. First of all, people were surprised. It was 1 week ago with Karen Read that they had closing arguments. There were people that thought they were going to drink champagne. Here's what they were told. The jury's going to be there for 10 minutes. They're going to come out and unanimous not guilty. Well, that obviously didn't happen. So you would think that someone might step back and say, gee, who was telling me that? Where's this coming from? I think it's interesting that last night, a number of the, quote, free Karen Read people were turning down TV interviews because they had to give their real name, not their online name. Now, obviously, I use my real name. The people that I deal with in the case use their real name, no matter who it is, right? Julie Grant, Court TV that's her name, Julie Grant. Vinny at Night, Aiden Kearney. I mean, there are people that use their real name. That's a problem that people were turning down interviews because, number one, they had to give their real name. So what does that mean? There's something there. That's number one. Number two, they wouldn't go on if they were going to be on with supporters of the O'Keefe family. I just find that, why would you not? I think that's interesting. So a retrial, last Thursday was when the O'Keefe family was attacked. 30 supporters of Karen Read followed them, stalked them, harassing them. I mean, as I've said, I don't understand why Karen Read would not tell her crowd to cool it. I don't have an answer on that. I don't know why you wouldn't say, hey, listen, everybody, back off here. I don't get that. They obviously would listen to her. We know on January 6th that President Trump was called upon to tell his supporters to, leave the Capitol and cool it. I don't know why Karen Read could have said, no, listen, I appreciate everybody's support, but you stop harassing the O'Keefe family. She didn't do that. Even yesterday, they thanked them. But so that sparked on Friday that some protesters showed up that supported the O'Keefe family. So then yesterday they were there again. And what happened was suddenly on Friday and over the weekend, there were news stories and segments about them. The people there wearing blue to support the John O'Keefe family. And then yesterday they were there again. And then there was more. And then yesterday they started popping up on television. But, I think what's interesting here is as they were popping up on television, some of the Free Karen Read people said, oh, well, then I'm not going to go on television. If I have to give my real name, I'm not going on TV. And I think that's really interesting. It's again, it's people that are pretty active online, but they don't want people to know who they are. Now, you can't do that. They're not going to introduce you as. And our next guest goes under the name of, Captain Hook, and joining us now is Seaweed Dog, who wants to share some thoughts on blah blah blah. I mean, you are who you are. I mean, that's part of it. So my point is, I think for a retrial, which is going to be coming, it's going to be a really interesting dynamic and different with the media if you start to have, quote, like both sides represented. If you start to have, um, if you start to have people that are there supporting the O'Keefes, if you start to have people that are there, and you don't, my point is, and then you just don't have the Karen Read supporters on television. So listen, the case was the case. It will not count in a retrial. Some people want to relitigate the case. I'm not one of them. Maybe there's there. I'm not one of them. Here's what I suggest. I suggest people wait to see what the defense is going to roll out for the retrial. Because as I've said, I don't envision a scenario. See, if you're the prosecution, if you're the Commonwealth, the facts are the facts. Now, they can tweak the charges a little bit, but if their case is their case, they can strengthen it in different areas. For instance, I've heard people say that one of the troopers, Trooper Paul, was not that strong. I know a lot of people like to focus on the witnesses in the case. Jen McCabe, Brian Albert, the homeowner, Colin Albert. I believe Michael Proctor, the trooper, lead investigator, him being relieved of his duties, I think that pushes him to the top. So here's what the jury said. The jury sent the defense a message. We don't believe your story about the frame cover up. That's what the jury said. Don't take it out on me, right? Don't kill the messenger here. It's very obvious. For the jury, members of the jury to be voting guilty, that means they're telling the defense, we don't believe your story. We believe Jen McCabe. We believe Kerry Roberts. We believe the niece of John O'Keefe. We don't believe your defense. So therefore, I cannot see a scenario where the Karen Read defense says, well, second verse, same as the first, that they just start playing the same song again. I think they're going to have to, and they've been given an opening, by the way, and that is with Trooper Proctor. Now, they may use that to pivot. Here's the problem, the way I see it for the Karen Read defense. There's no question about it. There's certain parts of the defense that involve the witnesses that are big money makers, right? They get people to donate, and people quote it. The dog rehomed, 227, Google search, Jen McCabe, House Long to Die in the Cold. Those are two big ones. Dog bites. So a problem I see is that they face is those are money makers. People are donating to that. But the problem is they're not seemingly strong in the courtroom. So you got to look at, okay, you're going to do the defense again. What's new? Well, what's new is Proctor was just relieved of his duties. There was talk that he was maybe going to take the fifth if he was called. That seemingly was obviously just a rumor and it wasn't true. The jurors that were voting to convict, despite the Proctor text, they still believed Michael Proctor. Despite all of that, they still believed him, and it didn't have a bearing on what they thought. So, but here's what if you're the defense, where did they seemingly gain ground when they brought in two witnesses and they were trying to confuse on accident reconstruction. They may feel that's the area to go in. That I'm just like spitballing a little bit, but just that if they feel this is an area that we want to go into, so we're going to double down on Proctor. So we're going to knock the investigation. You just had a guy relieved of his duties. He's still a state trooper in Mass, but he's essentially, I don't know what he's doing. I think you have that, and then you have tried to pinpoint that you can't absolutely definitively say how it exactly happened and try to hang your hat on that. My point is, it's very possible that in the second go round, that the defense says, on second thought, we're not gonna go after Jen McCabe. We're going to abandon the dog. We're not going to go into the dog bites. We're just going to argue how the investigation was conducted, and we're going to argue you can't prove the intent with the murder. Now should that happen, that would be an incredible development, because there are people that are very vested that Jen McCabe's a liar, Colin Albert's a liar, Brian Albert's a liar, that they're all liars. Matt McCabe's a liar. Think what those people have gone through. It's almost a little bit of, police kick down the wrong door, destroy the place. Oh, wait a minute. What apartment is this? 41B. Oh, wait a minute. We were supposed to raid 41C. Sorry, my bad. No harm, no foul. Oh, sorry about that. On second thought, we're not going to do the murder conspiracy. We're just going to go after Proctor, and we're going to go after the accident reconstruction. So, that would be a real game changer, that they suddenly, and I'm talking about the defense now, that they suddenly back off the whole thing. Because where does that leave the people that are involved here, that were leading the charges against these witnesses? It was, and I talked about it on Court TV. It was, and by the way, if you watched Court TV yesterday morning when I was on with Julie Grant, I essentially predicted exactly what was going to happen yesterday. So I was very happy about that. But my point is, there are people that were rallying the troops that, these people are liars and they have faced consequences. Now, if you followed the trial the way I did, you saw that it was Karen Reed on the body cam when she was being arrested, that in June of 2022, that she threw out, we all know this is a big joke, that Colin Albert and Brian Albert beat him up. And then the state police said, I think you should stop talking. Now, so she concocted the whole thing. And then when Michael Allen Jackson entered the picture, with him and his investigator or investigators, they contrived this, and then they unleashed it last spring of, boom, all of these people. And he was in the house and he was beaten, and the dog was attacking him, and then he was thrown out on the lawn. So I'll say this, there are people that are very vested with that story, and that the story came from Karen Reed. So I'll be curious to find out, what exactly happens here if Karen Reed tells people, oh, by the way, we're gonna go in a different direction. We're just gonna lean in on Proctor. So we're not gonna do the whole Google search thing. Well, the problem is you have some people that are literally facing charges on this whole thing, that took her at her word. And okay, That's what we're going with. That's what happened. She talked at length about what happened. She did an interview, and a lot of people didn't maybe follow this, but there's audio tapes of her describing in great detail this. He went into the house, jumped, boom, boom, boom. I mean, what does that say? What does it say if she suddenly pivots into? Now she may say, "Well, we just think the Proctor thing is stronger," but and it is. Hey, listen, I'm not denying that. That's not strong. I mean that that's tough for him. It's tough for the state police. Um, he was still a state trooper when he took the stand. He's not. He's kind of on leave now. There's a lot of parts about that. I cannot envision a scenario where I can't, where the defense just says we're going to hold, like a poker game. We're just going to hold. We're going to stay right where we are. We're doing the same case. I just can't imagine a scenario, and I don't know why you would just do the same case. Now, folks, I want to remind you, if you need a new fence, remember fenceri.com. Call them today, 401-732-0555. Easy website, fenceri.com. Plus, I share their Facebook page. The premier fence and deck contractor, fenceri.com. And if you mention our program, $200 off. I've worked with some people where they say, well, if someone mentions you, we'll give them 10% off. I'm like, okay, so it's $50. So what? You're going to give them $5 off? So, I mean, but $200 off, that's pretty substantial. FenceRI.com. Give them a call. Wood Deck Construction. They are licensed and insured. The reason I like recommending them is they're the real deal. FenceRI.com. If you're thinking of having a fence installed, business or home, call them and get them into the mix. 401-732-0555 for FenceRI.com. Now, I also want to mention it's summertime, and a lot of people are going to be filling up those propane tanks. So more and more people, by the way, are in fact using propane. And I want to remind you, I mean, you're just not going to find a better company to deal with than my friends at Propane Plus. I think the world of the Johnson family. Tim Johnson, his family, 3 generations. Call them today, 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. Heating and cooling, Propane Plus. And on top of that, not just that, you go to their website, propaneplus.com, you type in your zip code, residential, commercial, boom, get a free quote. Propane Plus for all your propane needs. Now also, where is it? Right here. Okay. Donna contacted me. How exciting. Donna's parents are selling their home, and they are going to they want to build an in-law apartment where Donna and her family lives. They asked, who did I recommend? AJ, Home Improvement, 401-323-9252. They could do it all. They could build you a new home. They could do an in-law apartment, painting, remodeling, acoustical ceilings. AJ Drywall Plasters Home Improvement, 401-323-9252. The real deal is AJ Drywall Plasters and Home Improvement. Well, folks, right now at 12:58, good afternoon. You're listening. This is the real noon report. The real news noon report. That's easy to say. We will be doing Road Patrol Live. Coming up next hour on the radio portion, and we are working to get the stream straightened out. Not exactly sure what happened with that, but one thing I know, we're on it and we're going to get it straightened out. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're going to check that out. Now, we will be doing Road Patrol Live later. Let me just check one more thing. Okay. Now, coming up in the 1 o'clock news, first of all, as far as the Karen retrial, I mean, we're going to follow that out as far as it goes. But I believe the story to watch, not just today, but over the next several days, leading into the convention. It's I know a lot of people feel the story should be on Biden, but the nature of the story to me is the thing to watch. And that is the mainstream media now is questioning, and members of the Democrat Party, not whether or not, it's nothing about Trump, it's whether or not President Biden is actually capable of governing. Does he have the mental acuity? We're going to break on the radio portion for the 1 o'clock news. We have another full hour to go. Donna Perry joins me next hour. We will be doing Road Patrol Live later. Right now, we'll be back on the other side after the 1 o'clock news.